In what I have no doubt was a sternly worded letter, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Minority Leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, demanded, what did they demand? A meeting. Yeah, a meeting with Donald because that's going to be effective. So why? Why? Well, we learned about this on an appearance Schumer made in an interview with Dana Bash. And she opened that interview with a question about Donald's posting on his failing social media site in which he urged Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States of America, to use the Department of Justice to go after Donald's perceived political enemies. Schumer said, I think it's a real threat to democracy. This is our rule of law. This is fundamental to our democracy, and we cannot let it stand. We're going to fight strongly as we can in every way. With that sternly worded letter asking for a meeting. Now, what exactly is the meeting about? Is it about the assault on the rule of law? Is it about Democrats drawing a line in the sand finally to stop the Trump regime's depredations, to stop their assault on our civil liberties, to stop the assault on our Constitution and our democratic way of life? No. No. In fact, the goal here is to avoid a government shutdown. Feel like you have deja vu? Yeah, me too. We were here a few months ago, and this is yet another opportunity where Dems really have all of the leverage because the Republicans control everything except in the Senate, because of the ridiculous filibuster, they need 60 votes to bring their bill, their spending bill, to a full vote in the Senate. So it just requires 6 Democrats who can then side with the Republicans. It requires all the rest of the Democrats not siding with the Republicans to kill this thing. And then the government would shut down. And who would be blamed for that? Okay, the Republicans control Congress, the Senate, and the House. They control the executive branch, and they control the Supreme Court. Who will be blamed if there's a government shutdown? The party out of power. Well, that is the calculation Schumer seems to be making here. Because when Bash asked him if he was going to vote no on the Republicans' bill, in other words, allow a government shutdown, he didn't answer the question, which suggests that avoiding a government shutdown is more important to him than fighting for our democracy. This is what Schumer said, quote, I hope and pray that Donald would sit down with us and negotiate a bipartisan bill. That's how it's always been done in the past. That's how shutdowns have been avoided in the past, unquote. Here's the problem with that, though. This is not the past. The past that Democrats like Schumer continue to exist in is no longer prologue to the moment we currently find ourselves in. It literally sounds like, once again, Schumer is going to give up all of his leverage, all of his advantages, squander it for what? For what? What they need to do is allow the government to shut down, which, by the way, remember the first time around, the largest union representing federal workers begged Senate Democrats to allow the shutdown to continue. They said that that would be better than allowing this corrupt fascist Trump regime to continue essentially taking a sledgehammer to our institutions, our agencies, our civil service. All of the leadership in the Democrats ignored them, and they joined with the Republicans to keep the government open. 10 Democrats sided with the Republicans to keep the government open, thinking that they were going to avoid longer-term harm. How is that working out for us? It isn't. I can't believe I have to say this. I can't believe this has to be said. But Democrats, please stop bringing politesse and 35-page white papers and sternly worded letters to a bazooka fight. This is not the way to get us out of this mess. Is it because that Schumer and other Democratic leadership are more afraid of people on the right and in the imaginary middle than they are concerned about what their base wants and thinks? Are they still more concerned about bipartisanship, which is a concept that is no longer operative in our government because one of our two major parties no longer believes in such a thing? Is it because they still, to this day, do not understand, still, that there are no rules anymore and that pretending there are and playing by them puts us at a massive disadvantage and makes it impossible for us to fight for our democracy? As we have learned way too much over the last decade, the people who've had actual power to slow things down, to impede the destructive progress of the Trump regime, or to stop Donald and his hideous movement, have proven that they are the wrong people at the wrong time. And that's from Merrick Garland to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They choose to continue to work with a party that has no interest in working with them or for the American people. And by doing so, the Democrats confer the benefit on the doubt on those who explicitly have shown us they do not deserve it. They continue to confer legitimacy on a party that time and time again has shown itself to be the enemy of American democracy. This is while the corrupt fascist Republican Party and the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court are systematically dismantling our institutions and curtailing our rights. We need to do better. We need better leaders. We need people who understand what is going on here. Not just what we're fighting for, but how to fight the fight. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Barry Trump Live. It is wonderful to have you with me. Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, especially if you put it in the context of what happened this weekend, which I'll do at some point at greater length. But, again, Donald's asking Bondi to sick the Department of Justice on his perceived political enemies, Emil Bove and Kash Patel, throwing away the FBI investigation into Tom Homan, the fascist thug who was literally caught in an FBI sting, taking a $50,000 bribe, I should say, selling off access to Donald, knowing that he was probably going to be part of the Trump administration. Donald's corrupt firing of an attorney who would not do his bidding and gined up charges against Letitia James. And of course, the kind of a memorial, but mostly fascist pep rally that took place in Arizona, in which Donald explicitly made threats. And Stephen Miller, as only Goebbels could do, made it clear that they consider us the enemy in no uncertain terms. But maybe the Democrats will learn something from this. Today, we have breaking news on a story that has become the face of one of the greatest assaults on our Constitution. I'd say since Donald took office, but since ever, almost. In a statement released today, Disney has announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to ABC. So let's take a look at this report straight from ABC.
It's just been announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to our air tomorrow.
The Walt Disney Company issuing a statement following this news about Jimmy Kimmel Live returning. They just shared with us that just last Wednesday they had made that decision to suspend production on the show. This, they said, in order to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. The statement also reading, "It is a decision, quote, we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive." They have said that they've spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, that is where the Walt Disney Company says they reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday.
Is that why? Do we seriously think that the higher ups at Disney had heartfelt conversations with Jimmy Kimmel and recognized the error of their ways? No. So many people were trying to cancel their Disney Hulu subscriptions that the site to cancel kept crashing. That's why. It's always about the bottom line. But what's the other message here? See what change you can affect when you band together and fight for something? Maybe the Democrats can take a page out of that book. Because it's time to play hardball. Okay, as I mentioned on Saturday, there was a quasi-memorial for Charlie Kirk in the wake of his murder. Donald, who we know based on his prolific golf playing and bragging about his ballroom, is extraordinarily just broken up about Kirk's death. And he did what most of us do in times of grief. He teased the release of false medical information. Yes, that's actually what I said. Take a look.
It was Charlie who helped unite MAGA. And you know what MAHA is? That's right, Make America Healthy Again. And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcements, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House about autism, how it happens, so we won't let it happen anymore.
That's obscene. It's a lie. And the ease with which that man just misinforms and disinforms his people, and the number of people in that audience who fall for it every time, is quite something. So ahead of this announcement, sources, including Politico, were reporting that the Trump regime planned to link autism to the use of acetaminophen, a pain reliever found in Tylenol and many other over-the-counter medications, by mothers during pregnancy. Politico's article adds, quote, "Major medical groups still recommend acetaminophen during pregnancy. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists says there is no clear evidence that prudent use causes fetal developmental issues and cautions against leaving maternal fever or pain untreated," unquote. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me, that maybe we should not allow pregnant women to suffer unnecessarily. Maybe we shouldn't allow their fevers to go unchecked, because pretty sure that's not good for a fetus. Today, flanked by his, well, I don't want to call them top medical advisors because they're quacks. Kennedy, as I must remind you, is an unqualified conman and sociopath who has no degree in any science of any kind. He is not a medical professional. He is not a doctor. He is not an immunologist. He is not a virologist. He used to be an environmental attorney, and now he seems to be hell-bent on murdering as many American children as possible. So there he was with the equally unqualified conman. Well, you know what? That's not fair. Mehmet Oz is actually a medical doctor which I think in some ways makes his participation in this worse. He may be qualified, but he is a con man of the worst kind. Take a look at this big announcement.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all, but if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in.
Is nobody going to stand up and say something? That's a medical doctor standing behind him. On the other side of him is the man who is sadly, tragically responsible for the health of Americans. They're just going to let him lie so horrifically. I hope Tylenol sues Donald Trump and the Trump regime for, I don't know what would be a big enough number. Do you know how many women are going to stop taking Tylenol because that grotesque person told them it wasn't safe? Show your work. How do you know this? And what was he talking about? Like, we went from to acetaminophen, moron, to talking about, I'm assuming, vaccines that are you put enough in a syringe for a little beautiful fragile baby, like he gives a shit about babies, enough to what? Stun an ox, apparently. 80 blends. He knows nothing. He is advised, if you can even use the word, by people who know nothing and care less about Americans' health. Donald wants us to believe that he cares about medical breakthroughs. Okay. If that were true, he wouldn't have canceled or frozen $6 to $10 billion in medical research. All of this is to fire up his base at Robert Kennedy's behest. Now, one question we have here is like, why would this fire up the base? Maybe because they have a death wish. I don't know. They want government out of their lives, but in everybody else's. I don't know. Of course, it's not just Donald who's a consummate liar. I think it's sort of a prerequisite at this point to be one yourself if you are going to be in his inner circle. Press Secretary Caroline Levitt, though, she is so practiced. Her mendacity comes to her so naturally at this point. Like, her entire job, we pay her. The American taxpayer pays this woman to lie to our faces every single day. When she was asked today about Donald's promise not to persecute political opponents It's a promise Donald made during his inauguration. Levitt gave a true masterclass in a double speak, which is an Orwellian term. Take a look.
I want to point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land.
We don't tolerate gaslighting is quite a sentence coming from the second biggest gaslighter in the American government, and that would be Levitt. Of course, Donald is first. See, he's first at something. So how do we deal with this, right? Because, and this is the tricky part, everything they say about Democrats, President Biden, the Biden DOJ, from which he distanced himself, by the way. Biden had nothing to do with the cases against Donald. That was Merrick Garland. Biden had nothing to do with Jack Smith's cases. That was Merrick Garland. Biden let Merrick Garland, or not let, just kept himself out of it when Merrick Garland went to indict Biden's own son. But what do we do when the language they use to describe us and our behaviors is perfectly accurately descriptive of them? Because then it just makes it sound like name calling. It makes it sound like both sides are playing this game. They call us fascist, communist, Leninist, Marxist, whatever, socialist, without ever having to define those terms, even though they are exclusionary. We call them fascists because they are fascists, and we can describe just all of the ways in which that is the case. But, well, if they call us fascists and we call them fascists, I guess it's just more name calling. And then what happens to the truth? What happens to the facts? And this is another reason the Democrats have to get more serious about playing hardball, because right now, Donald has the biggest bully pulpit. He has the biggest bullhorn, and he has absolutely no compunction about using them for the most despicable ends. In keeping with the theme of going after the First Amendment rights of journalists, Donald is basically going after reporters at the Pentagon. That's right. The Pentagon is taking major steps to limit not only journalists' access, but what they're able to write about, which, just so we're clear, isn't journalism. That's stenography. Here's MSNBC with more.
The Pentagon, meanwhile, will limit journalists' access to the building unless they agree to not publish certain information. Defense officials made that announcement on Friday, saying journalists who do not sign a statement agreeing to the new rules will have their press credentials revoked. A memo sent to the in-house press corps reads in part, quote, information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it's released, even if it is unclassified. The change is set to take effect over the next 2 to 3 weeks and has led to widespread condemnation from press organizations.
Hegseth has taken to Twitter to confirm these changes. One of his posts read, quote, "The press does not run the Pentagon. The people do," unquote. Has anybody ever suggested that the press runs the Pentagon? I mean, Hegseth isn't even running it, quite frankly. I think we would be better off if journalists were running the Pentagon, but that's not what we're talking about. Journalists report on what's going on at the agencies that run our government. They get information from sources that help the American people understand what's going on at these agencies. Hegseth wants to put an end to any access to any kind of useful information. Journalists are warning that none of this is going to help any American. It will just leave them with less useful information. National Press Club President Mike Balsamo said in a statement, quote, "This is a direct assault on independent journalism at the very place where independent scrutiny matters most, the U.S. military. For generations, Pentagon reporters have provided the public with vital information about how wars are fought, how defense dollars are spent, and how decisions are made that put American lives at risk. That work has only been possible because reporters could seek out facts without needing government permission," unquote. And if reporters start needing government permission, who do you think is going to get access? Who do you think is going to get the permission to give the interviews or to sift through documents? I'm pretty sure it's just going to be the people at Fox, any Rupert Murdoch-owned entity, OAN, Newsmax, real journalists. Just kidding. The hacks who are all in on whatever the Trump regime is doing to make Americans' lives worse and more dangerous. Okay, breathe. It's Monday. This doesn't seem fair. Breathe again. Well, it was something of a weekend that wasn't a weekend, right? Yeah, that's a thing now. We don't have weekends. It's kind of like what's happening to seasons because of climate change. We don't really have them anymore. All right. So we really need our emotional support moment today. This one was suggested by one of our viewers, Chad Wadalo. We're going back to the ocean. As you guys know, that is one of my favorite places. This was last week off Gambier Island near Vancouver, British Columbia. A boat party fell quiet as a pod of orcas rose and rolled beside them. Black and white, graceful, in calm water. Orcas travel in close families led by elder females using clicks and whistles to keep in touch and map out their route through the sea. For a few held breaths, they put on quite the show. So let's watch this report from CBC News.
Some friends and I were getting together. Wow! We were on the west side of Gambier Island, and we saw a pod of whales quite a ways away. They seemed to make a conscious turn towards us and came in very close.
Oh, they are coming right to us. Jeez.
And we're basically doing lots of tricks and something like you might have a front row seat at SeaWorld.
Now they're just showing off.
The middle-sized ones were flapping their tails up and down. The lead whale that was on its side, flapping its pectoral fin up and down and saying hi.
Wow! He's saying hi.
We just couldn't believe it. At one point, one of the kids said, "Can I ride it?"
Can I hop on that?
It just sort of reminded me of like a human family. It really keyed in on just how smart these mammals are and what an amazing species they are.
Yes, it is true. Orcas care more about family than Donald does. That's for sure. Orcas are absolutely beautiful creatures, but never take a ride on one because you might become a snack. Anyway, thank you so much for that. That was really cool, Chad, and I really appreciate it. So as a reminder to everybody else, if you ever have any ideas for an ESM, just send them along to info@marytrumpmedia.com because we love that. Okay, I'm breathing again. All right, questions, comments, etc. Steve, thank you so very much for that. Comment, maybe Stephen Miller should learn German to fit in with his Kristallnacht speeches. Well, sadly, English is the language of fascism now. So he doesn't need to learn German. Breathing again. Diane is a member for 1 month. Thank you so much. Comment, thanks for helping my sanity. You're welcome. Glad it is helping. Michael, thank you as always. Comment, the Dems need to get tough on crime and keep hitting Donald on the economy if they want to win in 2026. I'm not sure if I think the Democrats actually always tack too far to the right when it comes to crime and immigration. So I don't know. I guess the question would be like, tough in what way? I think what they need to do is point out how what Donald is doing by, engaging in hostile takeovers of American cities. He's not helping anything. In fact, he's making people less safe. He's making us less safe in many, many ways. So I think that's something that Democrats can hammer on. Plus, the cruelty. And yes, the tanking economy, which is totally the responsibility of Donald. Midas Cheryl, as always, thank you so much for gifting 1 Mary Trump Media membership. And we have a Midas Cheryl twofer. Thank you so much for that. Comment, donation for anything that will help Mary stay healthy and feel good. Well, thank you, Midas Cheryl. I had it started hitting me during Ask Mary Anything last night. I got my COVID booster and my flu shot at the same time. So, ow. And yeah, I'm feeling strangely under the weather still. But other than that, I'm fine. And I'm not going to get COVID and I'm not going to get the flu. So thank you. Thank you, Midas Cheryl. Much appreciated. Oh, but by the way, my health insurance, which is not cheap, didn't cover my vaccines. Cool. I will be getting new health insurance. Dorothy, thank you so much. As always, gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Susan, thank you. That is fantastic. Comment, 3 months now. Yay. Yes. Yay. Greg, autism, 1911. Tylenol, 1965. Who time traveled? Good question. I don't know. Although what I will say is autism, 1911, that's when we knew there was such a thing, or when such a thing was identified. I'm pretty sure autism has probably existed for a long time. But yeah, weird how that happens. But to see, this is the thing, and this has always driven me crazy. Since the beginning, Donald's lies don't have to be convincing or ever. People swallow it whole anyway. It's tough to fight against that. Susan, thank you as always. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. That is fantastic. Paul of Scotland, one of my favorite countries. Thank you very, very much for that. Comment, MAGA administration qualification is in Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah, exactly. These are all people who are deeply unqualified and in many, many cases, deeply unintelligent. And yet they all think they're brilliant and excellent at what they do. It's quite something. In the middle of nowhere, that is fantastic. Member for 4 months. Comment, my 7-year-old daughter asked me, Mom, what's that H word that means saying one thing and doing another? 30 years later, the examples have piled up. We need a vaccine against hypocrisy. Wouldn't that be nice? Do you know how many people who are so deeply annoying wouldn't be allowed to speak anymore? Not because we're suppressing their speech, but because they took a vaccine against hypocrisy and they wouldn't have anything left to say. Not suppressing anybody's protected speech. In the middle of nowhere, thank you again for gifting 1 Mary Trump Media membership. That's fantastic. Linda also gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you very much, Linda. Tom, comment, whales are the smartest animals in the ocean. Yeah, they are. They really, really are. I don't know if they're smarter. They're probably smarter than elephants, but elephants also have I think they have the similar kinds of emotional intelligence, but they're smart and beautiful. And they care about their fellow whales, which is, something humans could learn something from. Mariana, member for 3 months. That's excellent. Comment. Thank you for what you do and keeping me sane, keeping my sanity. You're very, very welcome. We're very glad it helps. Although sometimes I'm not entirely sure how. Loretta, thank you very, very much. Comment. Come to Half Moon Bay, California, Mary. Lots of whales, dolphins, and fun. That sounds like paradise. Sadly, I'm not going to be able to travel anytime soon, but I'm putting that on my list. For your mind, question. How mad do you think Orange Blob is now that Kimmel is back on the air? Derry. Disney's a little too big for him to threaten. So, Oh, listen, we'll see. We'll see. I don't trust Brendan Carr, head of the FCC, at all. So, who knows what they're going to come up with. Kareem Harper, thank you very much. That is incredibly generous of you. Comment, to be fair, there are no reports of an orca biting a human in the wild ever. In fact, wild orca behavior towards humans include attempting to feed swimmers and swimming beside them to observe. Just must respect their space. Yeah, exactly. The only instance we have of orcas attacking humans, using the word loosely, not attacking them, but harming them, probably inadvertently, is those orcas we have trapped and tortured in tiny, tiny spaces. They lose their minds. So you cannot blame them for that kind of behavior. It is inexcusable that was ever allowed to happen. But in the wild, yeah, exactly. Just leave them alone. We are swimming in their home. So I feel the same way about sharks. Sharks are an incredibly important part of the ecosystem. They kill, let's put it this way. There's a chart that shows you how many species, which species kill how many humans in a year. And sharks are at the lowest end, the 3, maybe. Dogs kill more people than sharks do. Mosquitoes kill many, many tens of thousands more people than sharks do. You know who has killed by a factor of, I don't even know, millions, hundreds of thousands more than sharks? Donald. And, I'll stop there. Arcane, comment, it's not better in Canada. My parents are elderly and they had to pay $400 each out of pocket for the shingles vaccine. That is disgusting. God, I have to get that soon. And besides the fact that it knocks you out for 2 or 3 days and you have to get 2 different courses of it, that's just what is wrong with us? I actually thought Canada was better about stuff like that. I mean, I know Canada is better about some things along those lines, but that's kind of shocking. Yeah, my COVID vaccine was $250 and my flu shot was $60 for something that was free last time I got it. Oh, well. Mary is a member for 1 month. Fantastic. Comment, orcas are awesome. Happy first day of fall. Oh my God, it's the first day of fall. I forgot. I love fall. It's exciting. Aaron gifted 5 Airtro Media memberships. That is so generous. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, I forgot to do this. Sorry, I'm going to do it now for all of our Canadians. Gary, thank you very much. We have Canadians in the house. My apologies. I didn't give you an elbows up earlier. So I'm giving everybody, all the Canadians, one now. Comment, we were sent a major dimwit for U.S. ambassadors. Yeah, I'm shocked. Shocked. Was he also a criminal? Is he also a criminal? Probably. It's a twofer. Sean, question. So Holman keeps the money he took as a bribe. What the hell? No investigation? No, because he's the right kind of person committing the crime. He's a brown shirt, a thug, and a fascist, and Donald likes him. What's $50,000 among friends? What's a little bribe here and there? Who needs a Department of Justice? Who needs justice at all? Who needs a rule of law? Nobody. And finally, Jenna. Wow, Jenna, that's so great of you. Much, much, much appreciated. Comment. I hope you realize how much the work you and your team do is appreciated. We use the same word. Especially out here in the cornfields of Hee-Haw. It's been an unnerving week of threats, Bible verses, and bad jokes. Really, you help me stay in this every day. Well, again, we so much appreciate the support. We appreciate the kind words. I wish I could. I wish I could make things better by making the Mets turn things around. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with them, but it's got to stop. We're running out of time. We could do it. All right, Jenna, thank you so much. And to everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, and our Substack, The Good in Us, to everybody listening to the podcast, thank you. To all of the people gifting memberships, getting memberships, our amazing super stickers, everybody giving us gifts. You guys rock, and we appreciate it tremendously. To our amazing moderators, for being amazing and selfless and generous. Just quickly, the best way to support us, the easiest way to support us, is to subscribe to our channel. We're this close to 470,000 subscribers. We're really, really wanting to get to 500,000. Doesn't cost anything. Just click on subscribe. And don't forget, once you do, you got to click on the bell icon and choose all. That way you'll be alerted anytime new videos drop, and not leave it up to the YouTube algorithm, because who wants to do that? Seriously. So the other thing you can do is remember that in addition to the lives we have Marriage Up Live Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And on Sunday, we have Ask Mary Anything Within Reason at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. I don't know if I said. We also have recorded videos at least twice a day. So watch them, share them, like them, comment on them. That also helps us a lot. And finally, to my extraordinary team for just hanging in there and just doing remarkable, extremely professional and valuable work every single day, day in, day out, no matter how hard it is. And I know sometimes it's really hard. So thanks, guys. It means so much to me and also to our community. All right, that does it for us. I will see you all tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern for Marriage Up Live. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. Bye.